Hey, how's it going? If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you're going to be moving from Windows to a Linux distribution, or you're checking it out and you're worried about how your audio engineering or audio setup is going to function. Now, to go ahead and get the elephant in the room out of the way, I know this video is a bit longer than you're probably wanting to watch. The runtime is longer than I'm happy about too, but the reality is there's a lot of things that we have to do to ensure that your Windows audio setup is exactly the same as it is on Pop! OS. In order to do that, we're gonna have to make sure that your Windows plugins work, that you know how to install everything, that you know how to run everything. And once you have all that set up, it's pretty straightforward after that. But that initial setup, that initial getting Windows plugins to work on Pop! OS, that's where the time-consuming part comes in. So hopefully we can get this knocked out as quick as possible, and I hope I can provide you with enough resources so that you can come back to this one video anytime you need a refresher on anything, and you don't have to spend a lot of time Googling around to try to find that one thread or that one post that gave you that one piece of information. You can just come back here and use all the resources that I've given you so that you can continue working in audio on Pop! OS. Now, with that being said, I'm going to make a few assumptions. One, that you have experience working in Windows audio setups. Two, that you have experience working in a DAW. Three, that you have experience working with VST plugins. And four, that you have Pop! OS installed on your machine. If you're working off of a virtual machine or you're working off of a boot drive, I can't really make any guarantees that everything's going to work exactly how you expect it to, because those are just different environments. However, what I can say is that if you have Pop! OS installed directly on your machine, this is going to work. So first things first, you're going to need a copy of Pop! OS. I would recommend working off of a clean install, but if you already got your system set up and you're already working on everything and you don't want to do that, fine, no problem. But if you have changed things about your system and you run into any errors along the way, I won't be able to anticipate for that. So I'm going to be working off of a clean install. If you're not, comment if you have any sort of issues, and hopefully somebody can help you out, or maybe I can give you some assistance if I see it. So head over to Pop! OS's site, download the most recent version of Pop! OS. Also check in the description of this video. You're going to see a link to a Reddit post, and it's going to be this post right here. This is my post that I put on the Pop! OS subreddit. It is the exact same as what I'm going to detail in this video, but it's going to have everything basically in a text form if you need a reference back to it. Also in the description, you'll see this paste bin link. It is the exact same thing again, but much more simplified, with all the commands separated out and much more brief and concise. So Reddit post for more in-depth explanation, paste bin for the quick glances at codes and links and things like that, and this video for your visual aid. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. First thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you have Pop! OS completely updated. You're going to want to use this script right here, if you're unfamiliar, to update everything. And you're going to open up your terminal. And once you copy that script, right click in the terminal, hit paste, and then hit enter. Now before I do that, if you're new to working with the terminal, new to Linux, new to Pop! OS, if you press Ctrl V, that's not going to do anything. But if you press Ctrl V and then hit enter, you're going to see that it gives you this sort of character and it doesn't really do anything. So when you're copying and pasting out of the terminal, always use the right click menu. That's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of headache. So again, I'm going to paste in that code. I'm just going to press enter. And I'm going to put in my password. And it's going to start installing the updates. So once this finishes, what I'm going to do is reboot the system, and we'll go from there. All right, now that everything is updated, what I'm going to do is reboot my system. Let's go up here to the power and hit restart. All right, now everything is back up. So what I'm going to do is open up my tabs again. And we're going to move on to the next step. So what we're going to do is make sure that Wine is installed. So go ahead and copy this code right here on line 7 of the paste bin. Open up your terminal and paste it in. Put in your password. And then we'll push Y and hit enter. And this will start installing Wine. If you're unfamiliar with what Wine does on a Linux system, what it'll do is allow you to install and use Windows-based applications on your Linux machine. Now, it's not 100% compatible with 100% pieces of software, but it does the job 90, 95, 99% of the time. I've had a lot of success with it, and I've only run into one instance where I had any issues at all running Wine with a Windows application. It was actually a game. So a lot more to work with there, and eventually I was able to get it figured out, and Wine's doing a great job with it now. Okay, now that Wine has finished installing, we're going to reboot one more time. All right, now that we're back up, I'm going to open my tabs again. And I want to go ahead and make sure that Wine installed successfully. So what you can do with that is open up a terminal, type in the word Wine, space, 2 dashes, and then version. And that'll tell you that Wine is installed and what version you have installed. If your version is different than this version, it's perfectly fine. You shouldn't run into any issues otherwise. Go ahead and close out of that terminal. And we're going to go ahead and download Reaper. So head over to this link, or you can go to reaper.fm and click Download Reaper. Now scroll down a little bit and find the Linux installer and just click the green download button. And then open up Reaper, open up the folder that Reaper installed to. Right click that zip folder, click extract here, and then open up that folder and the subfolder. Now you're going to locate the install-reaper.sh file, right click it, and hit run as program. If for whatever reason you don't see the option run as program, go to properties, go to permissions, and then click the checkbox right here that says allow executing file as program. But since mine's already checked, I'll just close that out. Right click the file and hit run as a program. A terminal window is going to open with a lot of text in it. All you really need to know is to install the software and choose I, enter, 1, enter, Y, Y, Y. And then you'll put in your password. And it'll go very quickly, but then the terminal will close out once it's finished. And you'll want to go ahead and verify that Reaper installed successfully. So you can go to your applications option down here at the bottom, or you should have an applications menu up here at the top. Either one of those will open the same window, and you can verify that Reaper is here. Go ahead and click on it, or if you want to pin it down to your taskbar, you can right click it and hit pin to dash. Now we can see that Reaper is opening. You'll get this message about it being an evaluation copy. Go ahead and hit still evaluating, and you'll have access to Reaper. But since we can verify that it's open, we're going to go ahead and close it out. What we're going to do now is install a piece of software called yabridge. What yabridge is going to do is allow you to use Windows VSTs on your Linux machine. So Wine will allow you to install and use Windows applications and installers. yabridge will allow you to use Windows VST specifically. So go ahead and copy this GitHub link right here and paste it into a new tab. And at the top, you're going to have the latest version of yabridge. Scroll down just a little bit and look for the asset that has a .tar.gz ending. Click that file, open that folder, right click that file, hit extract here, and then enter that file. And you're going to see a folder just called yabridge. Right click that folder and hit cut and head to your home. Now your home is going to be your main directory for all of your folders. And what we're going to look for is the .local folder. Now you're not going to see it by default. So what you have to do is go up to your menu and hit show hidden files. Now the .local folder is showing, so we'll go into that. We'll go into share and then paste the folder that we copied. Go ahead and enter that yabridge folder. And we're going to open a terminal by right clicking and hit open in terminal. And that opens in this path. And what you can do is find the yabridge-host.exe file, drag that into the terminal, click in the terminal, and then hit enter. And you'll see Wine start to configure some things. Now that it's finished, if you see anything that says could not find anything like that, it's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. But once it's finished, you can close out of that terminal. And we'll move on to the next step, which would be to go back to your home and then find the file called .bashrc. Open that text file, scroll all the way to the bottom, find the last line and hit enter twice. So now we have an empty space and then another one where we're going to enter in some text. Go back to the paste bin and look for this command that says export path and then a bunch of other things. Copy that text, go back to the text editor, paste it in. Make sure that you have the last quotation mark copied. And once you verify that, hit save and then close. Now we need to create some directories and then we need to point yabridge to those directories. So I went ahead and made the entire command for creating these directories right here in the paste bin. All these commands are also available in the Reddit post that I had mentioned before. I just keep referencing the paste bin just because it's simpler to read. So go ahead and copy this entire make directory command. Open up a terminal, paste it in. Make sure that you have that last quotation mark in there and it starts with an mkdir and you have everything included. Press enter. And that's going to create all the directories that we need. Now go back to the paste bin and line by line, I want you to copy these commands right here that start with yabridge, ctl, add, and then a path. This is going to add those paths to yabridge's preferences so it knows where to check for new files. So copy that, go back to your terminal, paste it, and hit enter. If at this point you get a message saying yabridge CTL is not found, then that means that you did something incorrectly when you added in this text here, or you added the yabridge folder that we cut and pasted earlier to the wrong directory. Go back over this tutorial and make sure that you have everything copied and entered in correctly, and then come back to this step and try again. But since that one went through successfully, we didn't get any error messages, I'm going to continue on and copy this second command. All right, so all of those went through perfectly, which means all the directories that we created were created successfully and yabridge is working successfully. So now that we have all that working, we're going to close out of this terminal window. And we're going to move on to installing Pipewire and qJack. Now what Pipewire is going to do is allow you to do things like manage your buffer sizes and your sample rates, things that are really important when you're working in audio. Otherwise, you're going to have issues with latency, or you're going to have issues with like crackling audio where your buffer size isn't big enough to take on the load of the audio that you're playing. So this is a very important step. Find this command, copy the entire line, go into a terminal, paste it in, and press enter. Enter your password and just let it do its thing. You're going to enter Y when it asks and hit enter again. And when you come to this screen, if you do come to this screen at all, press left on your keyboard and then press enter. And that will install qJack. I'm not going to go over the functions of qJack in this video, but qJack is a very powerful plugin that allows you to map and route audio on your Pop! OS machine very easily and very quickly. I encourage you to look a little bit more into it. Even if you don't necessarily have a use for it right now, you will eventually one day find a use for it, and it's nice to have it, not need it, then need it and not have it. So I'm including it in this installation, even though I'm not going to go over the functions of qJack. Once that's done, what you're going to want to do is reboot your PC one more time. And that should have been the last time that we need to reboot our PC for this whole process. So now your PC is set up to have Reaper so that we can work in a DAW. You have the ability to run Windows installers and standalone applications with Wine. You have the ability to run Windows VST plugins with yabridge. And you have the ability to manage your sample rates and buffer sizes with Pipewire. So now we're all set up. The only thing left to do is install a plugin and test everything out. So go back into your browser, go to the paste bin, and find this line with a link to a plugins for free. What we're going to do is install a synth called Tone. Scroll down just a little bit, find the Windows 32-bit VST, open that folder, right click it and extract it, and locate the Tone DLL file that just extracted. Now, what we're going to do is cut this file, go to Home, Wine, Drive C, Program Files, Steinberg, VST Plugins, and paste it in. Now go ahead and open up Reaper. Right click on the left hand side and click Insert Virtual Instrument on New Track. What it's going to do is open up this window and show you all the virtual instruments you have available, but you're not going to see the Tone DLL. The reason why is because we haven't yet told yabridge to scan for any new plugins and sync up those changes. So head back to the paste bin and locate this line right here where it says yabridge sync. Go ahead and copy that line, open a terminal, right click and hit paste, and hit enter. And we see that it says finish setting up one new plugins, which means it detected the Tone plugin that we added. So now we need to make sure that it shows up in the list before we go back to Reaper. This is an optional step, but it certainly doesn't hurt. You can go back to the paste bin and find this status line right here, or you can press up on your keyboard to bring back the last line that you had ran, get rid of the sync, and just type status. And right here we see cheapotone.dll VST2 32-bit synced, which shows us that it was done successfully. So head back over to Reaper, click Effects, click Scan for New Plugins, and we see Tone was detected, so we can head over to either New, or we can go to Instruments, and it'll show there. Go ahead and open up Tone, and you'll be given the entire interface, and you can click on any of these keys to test it out. Perfect. It's working exactly as we expected it to. It's working exactly as it does on Windows. This is exactly what we were looking for from the start. So now we can run Windows VSTs on our Pop! OS PC. But eventually you'll run into a situation where a VST comes with an installer file. So what do you do with that? Well, I went ahead and copied over an installer that we can use to test this out, so I can show you how you can run these installers and install things yourself without having to reference any other forums or videos to make sure that you have this all in one place. So go ahead and open up your File Explorer. You're going to go to wherever it is that you have this installer, whether it's under your downloads or your documents. One of the things that we ran earlier was create a lot of directories. And one of those directories was a VST folder in your documents folder. If you go in there, you'll see one folder called DLL and VST3 files. And you'll see that I have a zip file here. Of course, you're not going to have this file, but this is going to contain the installer that I need. So if your folder is a zip file, go ahead and extract it. Otherwise, enter into your folder and locate your installer file. My installer file is right here. So what you can do is right click and hit open in terminal in the folder, or you can just open up a new terminal window. Type in the word wine and then space, and then click and drag that installer file to the terminal. Now press enter. And you'll see the Windows setup running as you would expect. Go ahead and hit any prompts that you have to get through to get the program installed. Now, eventually your installer is going to tell you exactly where it's installing to. You may want to take note of that just to make sure you know where it's going. Otherwise, you can go ahead and hit next and finish out everything. Now you won't need anything but a VST2 or VST3 plugin. I just want the one VST3 plugin. So I'm going to turn that on and hit next, and then next, and then install and finish. At this point, you can close out of the terminal and then close out of your file explorer. I'm also going to close out of this terminal window that I have open, and I'm going to run the same steps with the yabridge that I did before when we were trying to locate this cheapo tone synth. So I'm going to open up a new terminal window, go to yabridge, sync. Oh, I'm sorry, yabridge CTL sync. And we see that it has finished setting up one plugin, 0 new, which means it didn't detect the one that we had just installed. So let me run yabridge CTL status, and I can see that it didn't detect it. So let's go ahead and open up a file explorer, go into our wine directory, drive C, program files, common files, and I should have gotten one installed to the VST3 folder, but it didn't go there. So let me go back to Steinberg, VST plugins. I don't see it there either. So let me run this installer one more time. So let's see, the 32-bit VST2 plugin goes to this directory. I'm not using that. 64-bit VST2 is going to that. So what I'm going to do is just turn everything on. I'll hit next and then install and then finish. So let's go check that directory again. So go to wine, drive C, program files, Steinberg, VST plugins, and there it is, it's showing now. Let me go back, common files, VST3, and there it is. Now I very easily could have cut this whole section out and just made it a very straightforward installer, but I wanted to demonstrate one thing with wine that I've personally experienced in the past, and that is that sometimes it has some issues with displaying text. Now, if you go back and watch that first installation I did, I checked everything off that I wanted, or rather unchecked what I didn't want and then checked off what I did want. Wine may have been displaying a check mark, but it might not have actually been there. So if you go through an install and you don't see the files in the directories where they're supposed to be, or that it says it's going to be, it's likely because something you checked off or marked off is otherwise just not being processed. So you might want to go through and play with that a little bit, or just do a full installation and not worry about the files that you don't need. So ToneForge Menace is now showing in my VST folder. So what I'm going to do is go back to my terminal window where I was running the yabridge sync. I'm going to do that one more time. All right, it's saying it detects 2 new plugins, and that's because we have a VST2 and a VST3 file on our system, which is perfect. We're going to hit yabridge status, and I can see here ToneForge Menace DLL and ToneForge Menace VST3. Perfect. We can close out of any open terminal windows, and I'm going to close out of that file explorer. Let's close out of cheapo tone, and I'm going to double left click over here in this blank area to create a new track. Open up an effects window, go to new, and then I'm going to go to effects and hit scan for new plugins. We can see that it was detected, and there we go, ToneForge Menace. I'm going to go with the VST3, and it opens exactly as we expected. Now, if I was to try to use this, and I'm not going to right now because I'm recording my microphone on the input of my interface, I would see that there's a lot of latency in what I'm playing. And that is because we haven't set the buffer size to a low enough number yet. So let's go back. And in our paste bin, scroll down just a little more. And you'll see fixing latency using Pipewire. The first thing that we're going to lose is change the buffer size with the following command, and we're going to copy this command, open up a terminal, and paste it in. Now, I have it set to 64. you can change that to 32, 64, 128, anything up to 1024. If you're going over 1024, then something else might be going on, or you might not have a powerful enough computer. You can go past 1024, but I left it cut off there just so you're aware that something else might be an issue that you want to take a look at. But I'm going to leave this at 64 and hit enter. And it says set property value 64. Perfect. Now, if you wanted to change this, by default, it is set to 48K. If you wanted to change this to 44.1, copy this command, go back to your terminal and paste it in, and then just change that last number to 44,100. That will change it to 44.1. I'm not going to bother changing that right now. I'm just going to close out of this and not run that command and go back to Reaper. Now, if I was to play along with this now, I would have a very low latency, almost negligible. Everything would be working exactly as I wanted. So with that, we now have everything working. You now have the information you need to install Windows programs on your Pop! OS machine. You now have what you need to install and run Windows VSTs on your Linux PC. You now have what you need to navigate through your file explorer and use the terminal commands that you need to get all of this working together. And the information, if you ever need a refresher on it again, is going to be in this video, and this paste bin is going to stay up so you can come back, take a look at it, and use any command that you need. As I mentioned before, you should absolutely look into the program qJack, get some more information about that, and see exactly how powerful that application is in terms of routing your audio around your system, especially when you're doing things like screen recording or screen sharing or anything like that. It is a great application, and I can't recommend it enough. Now, one last thing that I do want to mention before I end this video, if you go to the bottom of the paste bin, you'll see a mention of LV2 plugins. Now, this entire video has been talking about using Windows VST plugins on your Pop! OS PC. But LV2 is a Linux-specific plugin format that you can use anytime that you would like. If you open up that link, it's going to give you a list of some free LV2 format applications that you can check out, download, install, and see what they're about. Of course, you can go on Google and look up any more LV2 plugins that you would like to test out. But if you want to look into that format, take a look at the offerings, I thought this would be a great place to get started and seeing what's available in the community. So I think that about wraps all this up. I hope you are able to do everything that you're looking to do. I hope that everything runs perfectly for you. And again, if you run any issues, drop a comment or head over to the Pop! OS subreddit and leave a post there, and we'll be happy to help you out in any way that we can. So I wish you luck and happy recording. Take care.